Hey, been doing a bit of a tidy up in my room, opening a few old boxes, and I've come across this. An LED chaser kit from Dick Smith. Tee-hee, he said Smith. This is a kit from a long time ago. Dick Smith was a store kind of like Radio Shack in the States, and they were the place you'd go to if you wanted electronic components and computers and parts and, you know, kits and electronic stuff. They started mid-ish 70s, I think. The guy who started was called Dick Smith, or Richard Smith, but everyone called him Dick Smith. I grew up on these kits. I remember my dad built a Super 80, which is a TRS 80 clone. He built it from a kit and a component stereo system with a tape deck and a graphic equalizer and all that. So they had some Heathkit quality and complexity level kits back in the day. When I went and bought the kits, it was more like this sort of stuff. It was a bit simpler. They didn't have the big stuff because the economy and the scene wasn't really there anymore. It was winding down for the whole IT thing in the 90s and 2000s. But yeah, there was these sort of kits. So this is an LED chaser that I picked up, not when it was first released, but before they shut down, because Dick Smith don't exist anymore. They kind of, about 15-ish years ago, they were going downhill, got bought out by the Woolworths Group and got turned into a mobile phone and TV store, which is a sad demise for a shop that was very, very tech-oriented back in its heyday. But yeah, this one was released by Silicon Chip, which is a magazine, a electronics magazine in Australia. I believe they're still around. They've had a few name changes here and there, or they've merged and split off and whatever. But this is from February 1994. That's 25 years ago. This thing was actually first released 25 years ago. This isn't 25 years old itself, but this kit in this form was, first released in Silicon Chip, February 1994, 25 years ago. I was about 12 years old, so that means that this sort of kit would have been something that I was actually making. Going down there, spending my pocket money, buy some kits and put them together and make things do stuff. So it's as I said, it's an LED chaser. You hook up your power and the lights flash in a circle, kind of like on a sign for a store or whatever. You know, you got the lights going around the sign, or a carnival or whatever. So I've got this one. And I also have something from another company called Jaycar, which is another company like Dick Smith or like Radio Shack in Australia. They're still around. They're kind of like one of the big stores, the popular stores to go to, questionable business practice aside. But they have this kit, which I also bought for some reason. I don't know why I've got both of these. I just found them. And there would have been a reason that I bought one of these and then bought the other one. And maybe I lost one and then I still needed it. So I bought the other one and then I didn't need it in the end. I don't know what happened, but I've got two of them. So this one's from Dick Smith and this one is the same equivalent kit from Jaycar. And it is a light chaser. You can see it's got the same number of LEDs, maybe there. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 10. Got the row of transistors, row of resistors. It's basically an equivalent kit. There's a few slight differences. This one doesn't have a power switch, but it does have a potentiometer, a little trim pot to alter the speed, it seems. This one doesn't have the speed control, but it does have an on and off switch. So there's a few little minor changes. So I thought, hey, a bit of nostalgia. I might build these, get them to work, and see what the main differences are, and do a bit of a this versus that, Jaycar versus Dick Smith. I mean, it's a bit moot point now because Dick Smith doesn't exist, but I've got the kit, so let's do it. So I'll fire up the soldering iron while that's warming up and making a lot of noise. One thing about these Hakko soldering irons, FM206 is the one I've got, and it is a Hurricane. Now the thing with these Dick Smith kits, they had a whole range of kits in the what was called the Funway series. There was 3 books: Funway 1, Funway 2, and Funway 3. Funway 1 is on a plastic board where you would either photocopy or, heaven forbid, cut the bit of paper out of the book, and you put it on this plastic board that had holes in it, and you have screws with little springs, and you screw the springs down into the board, and you could just push the spring and put your wire in or your component lead, kind of like those 200 or 150 in 1 kits. It was like that, but it's kind of like a cross between the 200 in 1 kit and a breadboard, so you could actually put the components and joins where you wanted for each project. Then once you've done all that and you're getting pretty good, You go to the Funway Series 2, which was a whole heap of analog circuits, things like FM bugs, flasher circuits, maybe an amplifier and this and that. A few like just basic circuits. Then the Funway 3 series used microcontrollers. Not microcontrollers, sorry, integrated circuits. 7400 series, the CMOS sort of dip chips and that sort of thing. This wasn't from that, but this would have been probably the same level as the Funway Series 3 because it has the 2 chips, the 555 IC and another one, which is a decade counter, I believe. I can't remember what the part number is, but we'll come to that. But this isn't part of those Funway series. It was in the Silicon Chip magazine, so it's a standalone thing. Hence, it comes with instructions. You don't have to buy the book. So we got quality control cards, so if there's parts missing or whatever, I can send in and they'll send me the missing parts. Constructive comments, I can tell them what I thought about it. Disclaimer saying you're making it, so it's your fault if it doesn't work or you burn your house down. We have got a guide to kit construction. These came with every one of these kits. You always got this little booklet. And it tells you basically how to solder, the tools you need, how to read resistors and capacitors, different types of components, integrated circuits and diodes, and some other information there as well, like metric conversions, metric to imperial, and color codes for metal film resistors there, wire sizes and gauges, and it's all just like general kit information for anyone to use if you're new to making kits, and there's a good little bit of reference material there. And then of course we got the instructions. So this is almost exactly what would have been in the magazine. It says here, reproduced in part by arrangement with Silicon Chip from the February 1994 edition. So basically anything that was, if there was a kit like this in the Silicon Chip magazine, that would work with Dick Smith, and you could go and buy that kit from the Dick Smith store. And then the instructions you got were basically were taken directly from the magazine. Is almost like you photocopied the relevant pages from the magazine. And there's sections for notes and errata, and sometimes, you know, after it was published, they'd find, oh yeah, you got to change this or put a jumper wire there or whatever to improve, you know, bodge stuff. And that would be in the notes and errata, like change resistor 5 from 10k to 12k or that sort of a thing, you know. So there's often that after the fact. But this one looks like it's so simple. There was no need for those errata down here. It's all blank, and it's all blank up here. But this will tell us how it works. So here's the schematic. Basically, we've got the 555 timer. That's running in a multi-vibrator mode, multi-vibrator, just running, free running, and that's running into the clock on our 4017, which is a counter. What does it say here? Is it a decade counter, I believe? Yes, it's a 4017 Johnson decade counter. So this is running just as an oscillator, running into the clock, and that's causing this chip just to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we got 10 LEDs, as I said, but they're ganged up as 2 LEDs per output from the chip. So every time we pulse the clock, and you could do that manually with a button if you wanted to, it'll count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is pins 3, 2, 4, 7, and 10. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, because number 5 goes to the reset. So you could have a few more LEDs if you wanted to. They're not using all of the output pins, but if you only wanted 3, you'd run pin 7 around to pin 15, and it would reset once it hits that pin. So that way it just cycles around and around. It goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, reset. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, reset. And then you get your counting, you get your cycle, and then however you put those LEDs around, that's the effect it gives you. We've got it in a circle, so it's going to look like it's gone in a circle. You put it in a line, it's going to look like it's gone in a line. Pretty simple. It's not that difficult at all. They also give you the layout and the positions of the components, because there's no silk screen. You can see there's the layout there, and it's 1-to-1 scale. So if you wanted to, you could etch your own board from that. Same in the magazine, they give it to you 1-to-1 scale, so you can etch your own boards. and then what would be the silkscreen. Never got a silkscreen on these kits because these were just made to be cheap, and yeah, it was before the day of the days of cheap Chinese, 1 week turnaround PCBs. Tin on one side, no solder mask, nothing. It was just a tin circuit board, and they worked fine. So that's the Dick Smith one. This one here is the Jaycar version, which is, as you can see, smaller. But the layout is pretty similar. We've got the 555 here. We've got the 4017 there. We've got our transistors here and the LEDs around the outside. Main difference, obviously, is the size, but also the Dick Smith kit being made older is very square and angular. Well, it's 90-degree corners everywhere, whereas the Jaycar one has got the 45 degrees. It's still just a bare board, no solder mask, no silk screen, but yeah, they do the same job. And as long as you follow the instructions, there's going to be no problems. So I'll zoom out again, and we might start putting this thing together. Oh, yeah, with the Jaycar one, it doesn't have a potentiometer to change the speed, but there'll be a fixed resistor for that. And I think from memory in the manual, which we'll come to, it might tell you which resistor that is to change. And it will be a simple thing just to wire in your own potentiometer and have that speed changeable. So first things first, I'm going to wire in the lowest components and go work my way up to the tallest, because that's the easiest way to do things. So got the resistors, got a few standoffs or little pins for the battery connections and whatnot. They even give you a little bit of no, that's not solder. They don't give you solder in this one. That's a bit of jumper wire, because we've got a whole heap of jumpers everywhere. Being a single-sided board, we've got jumpers. Few capacitors. What brand are these? Jaycar capacitor, 105 degree rated, and just your generic red LEDs. What brand of these have we got? Texas Instrument 4017, and the 555 is an ST micro. So we've got good components there. I don't know what brand they are. They're just the transistors to drive the LEDs. BC547. Yeah. They're marked here C547B. So close enough. Alright. Let's do this. Alright, that is it. We are done. That was pretty straightforward. I ran out of jumper wire halfway through, so I had to use some of my own wire, but I guess if we soldered in the resistors and LEDs first, we could have used some of the cut-off legs to do some of the shorter jumpers, so that probably would have saved the day. But yeah, it would have been nice to have a little bit more wire there, just to be able to do all of them at once. But yeah, apart from that, it went together quite smoothly, except I hit the board and sprayed the LEDs everywhere. I had to look for them again, but we're all together. So let's hook up some power and see how this thing works. Okay, so according to the schematic, we need a 6 volts. The bottom pin here is positive and the top is negative. Okay, so I'm going to turn the lights off so we can see the lights a bit better. Look at that, it's working. 25-year-old kit. There you go. And if I get my screwdriver, I should be able to turn that up and down. Yeah, that's definitely slower. That's pretty cool. Good old nostalgia. Alright. How cool is that? Alright, so that's the Dick Smith one done. Let's go and do the Jaycar version and see how that one performs. Alright, so it's time for the Jaycar version, which looks almost identical in its circuit layout, except for those few little differences, where it has a power switch instead of the trim pot. So if we put the schematics side by side, we'll put the Dick Smith one on the left and the Jaycar on the right. You can see it's almost the same. We got the 555 here, and we got a 555 here. That's feeding into the clock. That's feeding into the clock. We got a this one's a 47 microfarad on the power, just for a decoupling and power supply smoothing, whereas this one's got 100 microfarad. We got the pin 1, which is the number 5 going into the reset, and same here, number 5 going to the reset. We got the resistors coming out, transistors to the LEDs, and it's the same here. It's all just pretty much the same. This just has a reverse biased protection diode, so if you connect it backwards it won't fry the circuit. And it looks like that this one runs on 12 volts, whereas this one runs on 6 volts. So I'm not sure if these are going to be brighter, or if it's just they ran on 12 volts and altered the resistors, because the resistors here are 1K, whereas here they're 470 ohm. That's the to determine the current through the LEDs. So these are obviously going to be a higher resistance because you got the higher voltage. Yeah, apart from that, it's pretty much the same. So let's build this one. I got all the parts here. This one they give you some solder, whereas the Dick Smith one they didn't give me solder. Well, I may have stolen the solder, but I don't think they gave me solder to start with. I got 2 gold pins, but there's already 2 gold pins in this kit, so these may have been from another kit. I'm not sure. So it's going to be more of the same. We'll build this and see what it does. I'm pretty sure I know what it's going to do. It's going to give me another hit of nostalgia. This one here is actually from the Jaycar version of the Dick Smith Funway kits. So Dick Smith had Funway, which I was talking about before. Jaycar's version of that was called the Short Circuits. And it was the same thing where you bought a book, and in the book is a whole heap of kits. This is one of them. This is project number 8. You can see there. So this is, yeah, you work through from 1 to 8, or 1 to whatever there is in the book you've got, of the number 1 book, number 2 or number 3, and the level of complexity. And yeah, you build these kits. So this one wasn't in the Dick Smith Funway kit because it had other circuits. This one came later, so this is probably a copy of this one that's been slightly changed for Jaycar, and they probably couldn't do a direct rip-off because it was a bit too blatant if they did that. But yeah, so the good thing about the Jaycar kits, though, is that you don't need to buy the books. This is actually downloaded from the website. If you go to the Jaycar website, jaycar.com.au, and you look for the Light Chaser circuit, it has a link to the PDF, which is the PDF of the entire book. And you just download the book and you print out what pages you need, which is really good. I was pretty happy with that. So it meant I could put this thing together. I didn't have to go and buy the book. So we got the same deal. We got the schematic and the circuit board layout. They don't give you the a picture of the traces though in the manual, so you can't really make your own that easily. Because this one was from the silicon chip, so it was designed that you could just photocopy it and make your own circuit board, or you could go and buy the Dick Smith one if you didn't want to make the board yourself. This one is designed just to buy the board and you make it as a kit for like a beginner electronics enthusiast. So I'll get this done and we'll see what happens. Okay, that's the Jaycar one done. Compared to the Dick Smith one, looks almost the same, just a bit smaller. The Dick Smith one also came with some rubber feet, which is a nice little addition, so it doesn't scratch up your bench, and you can have it sitting there nice and fancy like. But the Jaycar one tells you the voltage, plus 12 volts and 0 volts just there. Whereas the Dick Smith one, it says nothing. So you just got to know which is positive and negative. So actually I might mark that, because knowing me, I'll get it wrong. So negative there, positive there, and it's 6 volts. 6 volts there. Okay. Now I won't blow the thing up. So I'll clear off all of this stuff. The solder that they supplied, it was alright. It wasn't the best stuff I've ever used, but it was serviceable. Didn't seem to wet as well as the stuff that I use on my bench. We'll set these up next to each other and we'll see how they go. Alright, here we are, ready to go. We've got the Dick Smith one on the left, Jaycar one on the right. We've got our 12 volts coming in, our 6 volts coming in here. Well, not yet, I've got to turn it on, but it's connected up ready. For the Jaycar one, to change the speed, you want to either replace the 2.2 microfarad capacitor, the black one here, the one on the bottom, or replace that resistor there, the 2.2k resistor. It's probably easy to change that resistor because you can easily get a just a trim pot like this, or a potentiometer of some description with a little dial. But they say you shouldn't go below 1k, otherwise it'll flash so fast it'll look like they're just constantly on. So if you remove that 2.2k and put a 1k in series, that's in line with maybe a 5k or a 10k potentiometer or trim pot, then you'll be all good. So if you turn that potentiometer right down to 0 ohms, because it's in line with 1k, the minimum you get is 1k. And if you turn it right up to 10k, well, it's going to be 10k plus 1k, you have 11k. So that should work quite well if you were to do that. So let's turn these on, see how they perform. So we got the lights turning off. If I can reach it, there we go. And power, contact. Seems they're working. Let's turn the lights off all the way. There. That's the thumbs up. They're doing what is described on the box. So yeah, I mean, the two kits, they went together pretty easy. It's much of a muchness for, you know, the features. I like the idea of having the potentiometer there, the little trim pot, whereas this one doesn't have that, so that's a little mod you have to put in. I'm not so fussed with the on and off switch. It doesn't really phase me too much. You know, meh, whatever. But the reverse bias diode is a good idea. Whereas this one, if you reverse bias it, you've got a chance you might pop something, but it says in the instructions it's not that likely if you don't leave it on there too long. But yeah, if they put a diode in this side, it would make it a bit more safer for the klutzes like me. But yeah, I mean, as for which one's better, well, the fact that the Dick Smith one is unavailable, that kind of means that the Jaycar's the winner, because you can actually still buy it. But yeah, they both do what they are supposed to do. So yeah, I think this one actually is designed so you can fit onto a one of those zippy boxes or the jiffy boxes, little black plastic boxes like this sort of box, like on the old EV blog U-Current. It's like a plastic box, you get a lid with it usually, but you can take that off and do exactly what he's done here. I think this is probably a standard size. It does look like it's kind of a standard-ish size. So it's probably a box you could put that on, and you could wire in the two wires at the bottom to a battery or something to power that. And that would make sense with the switch, because you can just turn it on and off as you want. But that's pretty much it. I'll give it 2 thumbs up, 1 for each kit, because they both worked out quite well. Don't forget, there's that subscribe button down the bottom. Click that if you want. Keep watching the videos, and we'll see you in the next one.